I also just felt nostalgic. I'm like, oh, hey, that's nice. Someone's talking about the Bermuda Triangle. No one's talked about that since like the fucking 80s.
Yeah. Since I was a kid. What happened to that?
I thought it was going to be a big deal when I grew up. Like, I thought it was all going to be Bermuda Triangles and Sasquatches.
Yeah, it's all I worried about at night. To all the members present and worldwide, I hereby call this meeting of the Piece of Shit Book Club to order. I'm this week's esteemed chair and chief bibliophile, Cecil Sasson. And I'm here to guide you, dear listener, through the world of shitlit. I'm fully charged today. My battery's at 100%. We got a great ep for you today. I've let you know when some previous episodes weren't going to be very good. I have credibility in this department. So believe me when I tell you, we've got a jam-packed agenda for today's meeting. Also, we've heard the feedback loud and clear. Last week's chairperson, Booker Dubois, has been canned. We got some feedback that he was giving off some weird energy. He was kind of hostile. And actually, I listened back to the episode. There was a little bit of hostility coming from Booker last episode.
That was with the worst parts cut out.
Yeah. Well, he's done with. He's out. I'm in. We're guaranteeing less hostility, more interpersonal positivity on this episode. And to underscore that, let's bring in the panel. Let's bring in the boys. Where are my boys at? All right. We got this week, Jane Lynch. Welcome in, Jane.
Always a pleasure, Cecil. Thank you.
We've got Bo Dashington. Dr. Bo Dashington, how do you do?
Yeah, pretty good. Sorry, Cecil or Cecil? Cecil.
Cecil Sasson.
Cecil Sasson. Cecil Sasson.
Cecil Sasson.
Cecil Sasson. Cecil Sasson. Okay.
Cecil Sasson. It sounds like we picked you up off waivers. Sound like a fourth line plug.
In the MLB, though, right? Yeah. And Chip Wilson. Welcome in, Chip.
Hey, good to be here.
Okay. This is this week's PSBC roster of reprobates, the standing committee of creeps, the panel of pendants. And it is a shame, again, it's as we observe International Women's Day, we couldn't book a single female PSBC member on the panel today.
What better way to celebrate International Women's Day than a group of men reading and talking about Chinese mysticism? I mean, I'm sure there's some women in the Falun Gong, right? They need to be represented and heard. And who better to represent and voice for them than us?
Better to mansplain.
Yeah, because the Falun Gong literature has no mansplaining. It needs us to step in and do it for them, right?
Dr. Dashington is getting ahead of the script here. So on today's episode, look, let me take us back one step here. So the Piece of Shit Book Club podcast, we do a deep dive into one particularly odious book each week. We're not podcasters. We're not media types or internet influencers. We, for the most part, don't have any connection to the publishing industry. We're not, for the most part, writers. We're just four buddies looking for an excuse to connect and bullshit every week for a couple of hours. And it's really been actually great, the amount of traction that we've been getting with this podcast. We're starting to see some response from our book club membership. We've gotten a lot of downloads on our Steven Seagal episode, on our Fetterman episode. So as you said, Dr. Dashington, what better way to build on this growing momentum than a deep dive into a relatively obscure text from a banned Chinese spiritual movement? It's the episode that no one's been waiting for. We look at Li Hongzhi's Zhuan Falun, the foundational text of the Falun Gong movement, which is either a evil and secretive cult or a fairly harmless woo-woo spiritual movement, depending on who you ask. So book club members, stick with us. It's going to be fun. I promise you. You're thinking, come on, but it's going to be good. But before we get into that, the book report segment, a roundup of news items, new releases, and a rundown of what we're reading. Before I open it up to the floor of you beautiful book boys, I have a motion I'd like to put forward. So in the past, the chair would discourage discussion of any books in this segment that weren't shitty. Anytime someone wanted to talk about an actual good book they were reading, they were kind of like poo-pooed. And I was thinking about it. I propose that we officially permit discussion of good books in this segment. We're doing it anyways. It happens every meeting. We may as well formalize it with an official writ. What say you?
But I only like doing it because it was bad.
I say keep the poo-poo, but people can discuss whatever books they want.
Well, it looks like the motion fails to pass. It got voted down. All right. Well, so then it's official. There'll be no discussion of good books in the book report segment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Copy.
I checked out something really good last week, though.
Yeah, me too. I've got one I really want to recommend too.
Oh, why I oughta. All right, Chip. Yeah, jump in. Go ahead, please.
Actually, I don't know how much of a recommendation this honestly is, but in the process of going through Falun Gong texts themselves, I would say that this guy Benjamin Penny is an Australian academic, has a very good book on the religion of Falun Gong. If anyone is curious about maybe a little bit more adult conversation following this podcast,
Ben Penny.
Yeah,
I'm the only one who loves that name.
Ben Penn.
Ben Penny.
Yeah.
Ben Penn.
Duly noted. We'll be rushing out and picking that up, I'm sure. Bo Dashington, what have you been reading?
Well, I've only been reading a book I actually do want to recommend and really like. I'd recommend it to everyone, but I was especially going to mention it to Chip. There's a certain American reality television program where they maroon 16 people on an island.
American Idol.
Yeah, it's American Idol. It's American Idol on the island. But there's a former Survivor contestant called Stephen Fishback who wrote a book about reality TV called Escape. And it's a novel. And it's so fucking fun. I really, really like it. I just genuinely wanted to recommend it. If you're a Survivor addict, which I am, it's such a, I don't know, it's just a very fun book.
It's not a piece of shit book. It kind of sounds like a piece of shit.
It's actually well written, believe it or not.
Okay.
The guy's actually a writer. He's not just he's a writer by profession. So he's not just some like random like reality TV.
Is it like fiction, a fictional book, or is it like him writing about reality TV? Okay. Oh, cool.
It's a novel, but he did like several hundred interviews to like with like producers and like recruiters and like casting people and all that type of stuff. So it's actually like a realistic depiction of the world of reality TV. I feel like I'm not selling it well, but it's a very fun book, especially if you like Survivor.
We actually have 3 of us that are following Survivor on this podcast, so maybe we can add that segment once in a while.
Who's the third? Oh, Jane, do you watch it?
Yeah, so I watched the first season. I've never seen any other season, and so Chip persuaded me for the 50th. I've been enjoying it though, I will say.
So I'm the only one stopping this from becoming an all Survivor podcast then.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Jane, anything that you've been reading? Any items that you want to contribute to the book report?
Just the book I mentioned kind of off recording before. I have been kind of skimming through it a little bit. Don't Be Canada, How One Country Did Everything Wrong All at Once by Tristan Hopper, a reporter who was kind of infamous a little while ago for killing a raccoon and posting about it on Twitter and thinking about how brave he was.
Pretty nasty animals.
And yeah, it's just an odd book. It's just like talking about, the wokeism and how transgenderism is like ruining our country and how we're letting in too many immigrants. And it's just all the talking points, but each talking point is like a good, what's already been said in clip bites is now just extended to a few hundred pages. So
yeah, I find that stuff like even more aggravating when Canadian influencers or whatever try to do it, or reporters, because it's just like, come on, it's Canada, guys. Like, you're just co-opting like U.S. talking points. It's just is embarrassing on top of vile. Yeah.
Protecting our unique culture and history. The fuck are you talking about? What culture?
Nothing unique about Canada. It's a copy of a copy.
So yeah, if anybody wants a really shitty book to read about Canada, so that's what I would recommend to our listeners.
All right. Well, thank you for that. See, now I wanted to talk about a good book, which is why I put that earlier motion forward, but I guess I'm breaking my own rules over here. So I've been, so there's a podcast that I love, super popular podcast. The Rest is History. It's great. Well, it's right in the name. It's a great history podcast out of the UK. They just wrapped up a 6-part series on the fall of the Inca Empire and the insane brutality of the Spanish conquistadors in South America. And it's a terrific sequel to they did this 10 plus hour long series on Cortez and the Aztecs. So this is sort of a great compendium piece to it. And so I'd only been vaguely aware of this story And so it prompted me to pick up Kim Macquarie's The Last Days of the Incas. And it's a really breezy narrative history about Pizarro and Atahualpa in Peru. And if you don't know the story, I mean, the really, really basic nucleus of it is 160 Spanish maniacs bringing down this complex empire of 6 million people and then destroying each other in an orgy of violence in the aftermath after they've already conquered the empire. So it's just fascinating. It's brilliant. So recommend that. Not a piece of shit. And it's not a dense academic tome. It's really readable and accessible. So that's what I've been reading. Turning towards some book news. I know in the last episode, the last meeting of the book club, we said, okay, no news because it was just all political stuff. But actually something interesting came out of the Supreme Court in the US. There was a judgment just a handful of days ago over whether they were looking at the issue of whether machines can be authors. Can AI hold a copyright for a book? And the Supreme Court decided that actually no, that human authorship is, quote, a bedrock requirement for copyright protection. So this prevents AI-generated work from being registered for copyright and reinforces the idea that creativity is a uniquely human endeavor. It'll be interesting to see what the consequences of this are. You can't also, if you try to generate something through AI and then claim human authorship for it, that's fraud. There's legal rules, laws that prevent you from doing that. I don't have a pithy joke to end on, but that's, something. Look, this is a book podcast and this is book news. So, I'm bringing it to you.
Big book news. Yeah.
The big time book news.
Boring.
Okay. Moving on, we'll take a look at a few new and upcoming releases that are, we're keeping an eye on here. So the first one, in celebration of International Women's Day, the title is "Why Women Deserve Even Less" by a fellow named Myron Gaines. I'm reading from the back cover here. The proof is everywhere. More ghosting, harsher texts, faster upgrades, quicker divorces, endless orbiters getting drained. This isn't bad luck. It's the new baseline. Women just aren't into you anymore. Your sex drive, once the fuel for greatness, is now your biggest weakness. Women extract value while giving crumbs or nothing. They'll take your resources and bounce to Chad, AI, or the next wallet. This isn't hate, it's math, it's survival. Chris gives it 5 stars out of 5. Quote, "Must read for single and divorced men between 18 to 45. It's divorce core through and through.
Divorce core.
Something is sus because the reviews are there's about 150 reviews. They're all 5-star. If you don't know this guy, Myron Gaines, he's from something called the Fresh and Fit podcast. He's a Sudanese American fellow. The podcast has been demonetized on YouTube. Frequent guests include Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes.
What's it called? Fresh and Fit?
Yeah.
Sounds like a man that went through a divorce and turned a bad situation into a good situation by making lots of money off of it.
Well, they've hosted Nick Fuentes a few times on their podcast.
I've seen clips of it. It's this format where they often will bring on a bunch of women who are OnlyFans models, or they clearly scout people who are maybe kind of superficial, maybe not
That's
super
this guy?
bright, and then just kind of treat them like shit.
Make him cry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's total garbage.
So you're lucky.
Awful.
It came out recently, February 22nd, $20.61 on paperback. Get this, 97 pages. Now, if that shows just a lack of respect for your audience. If I was a grifter and I was writing a nonsense book, wouldn't you feel obligated to at least crack 100 pages?
Pat it a bit.
Yeah, come on. That's like putting out a 45-minute feature film. It's like you've done half the work.
Yeah, you need to go 160 pages to 200. I mean, that's your bar.
Even 100. The guy was 3 pages short of 100.
Check the margins on those pages as well. There's probably only a dozen or so words on each page.
Myron's using 1.5 spacing on those lines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. These it's one of those podcasts, I think, also that's a live one that goes for 8 to 10 hours, I think, on their broadcast,
Oh, respect to that. I'm exhausted after an hour of this.
When you first mentioned this, I was just looking it up online and thinking, oh yeah, maybe that's like a book that would be interesting to cover. But then just reading more about it, where it's all just like awful shock content with nothing to actually analyze, and realizing, God, there's be no, like, reading that would just be such a nightmare.
Yeah, like even in the realm of like misogynist literature, they're not bringing anything new to the field of research, so to speak.
The next book that we're taking a look at, Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery, from Gavin Newsom. It's the #1 bestseller in U.S. local government. $23.95 on hardcover, 304 pages. From the back cover, go slow, his political elders advised him, but Gavin Newsom has never known such a speed. In Young Man in a Hurry, Newsom traces the forces that have defined his ambitions as a politician and have pushed him to outpace the nation in myriad cutting-edge social issues that have since entered the mainstream. Now, again, I'm loath to label any of these piece of shit books without having read them, and I love when books get these kind of reviews. This is from an Amazon reviewer, 4 out of 5 stars. Pages too thin. Get a digital copy or an audiobook. Paper is too thin. You can see the print from the next 2 or 3 pages through the one you're reading. I couldn't make it past the prologue with this being such a distraction for my reading. So it's when the actual physical book is a piece of shit, and we've seen this before in some books.
That's why you hated the Prince Andrew book, isn't it? It wasn't because Prince Andrew was a notorious diddler. It was just because the book was low quality.
You are getting at the heart of the matter.
Do you think the thin, transparent pages are commentary on Newsom himself at all?
Interesting. That's a cutting critique.
I just gotta say that I think we've got a deeper like structural issue in the Piece of Shit Book Club, because we managed to get a new host every week, and they all fucking love Prince Andrew the Diddler. Like, so I don't really know what's going on there. Maybe we could set up a committee or something and get to the bottom of this one and look very strongly at it.
You don't think a guy named Cecil Sasson is going to be into Andrew Mountbatten or whatever he's calling himself these days?
Sounds like one of Prince Andrew's best buddies.
Yeah, so that's Young Man in a Hurry. See, my thing with Newsom, he's too handsome to be the most qualified guy. It's the Trudeau syndrome. Like, there's no way the sexiest fella is the best for the job. Look at history. Some of the greatest leaders: Churchill, slob; Lincoln, nerd;
Jean Chrétien,
ghoul.
Totally unfuckable. So that's Young Man in a Hurry. And the last book that we're keeping an eye on is called Manufacturing Delusion: How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You, by a fellow named Buck Sexton. Quote, a former CIA analyst draws on his experience combating jihadi terror movements and the history of totalitarian regimes to show how citizens lose touch with reality. He shows you how some of the early stages of mass delusion have already occurred right here in the United States of America on issues of public health, gender, and racial justice.
How many of these books come out per week now?
It's crazy because we're doing this show every 2 weeks, and there is a fresh haul of trash every time I look at the Amazon list. This one is #1 in political freedom.
Political freedom is the category?
That's a category?
But yeah, Amazon's got some great categories. Political freedom is a category.
Well, I'm just going to do the segue here because I think the category of political freedom goes great into our main segment.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we going to talk about Chinese mysticism today, or is that off the cards?
Okay, so that was the book report segment. I'll now pass it over to my esteemed book club colleague Chip Wilson for our feature segment on Zhuan Falun by Li Hongzhi, the Bible of the spiritual movement, outlawed by the Chinese government, Falun Gong. I just have one more thing to say, and then it's all yours. So, You would agree that we're not journalists on this show.
Yeah.
But we have an obligation to our book club members to be transparent and to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Do we not?
Yes, but we're also anonymous.
We are anonymous, but if there were potential conflicts of interest, you wouldn't want them coming out later on, maybe future episodes, maybe if we're doxxed. And we wouldn't want to be accused of maybe being a Wu Mao podcast, or people saying that, Cecil Sasson is a Chi-Com agent.
Okay, well, we're going to get those accusations no matter what. Are you talking about the scam we tried to run?
Is it not true that you previously resided in the People's Republic of China?
Yeah, that's true. Is it not true that you did as well?
That's not the point. We're not here to talk about
Is
me.
it not true that you lived in fucking North Korea?
We're not talking about North Korea on the podcast today, though. If we have an episode, the next time we're doing, Juche history, then yeah, that's something that I'm happy to disclose. But also, Dr. Bodashkin, you studied in China as well. So let's not point fingers.
I was a student there, yeah, technically speaking.
Jane Lynch and I have traveled in China together with you, Cecil. We're a Wu Mao podcast, is true.
You see, what goes around is all around.
Furthermore, though, is it not true that in the past you've been on the payroll of Chinese state media as a commentator?
Me? No.
Okay. And with that, I turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Chip Wilson.
So I was really excited to cover something cultish. Just going back to what you were saying before, thinking back to when we were all living in the same city and we were doing our religion tour, where we'd go to a different service each week, dress our Sunday best, go to like the Anglican thing, go to the Mormon thing. And you and I, Cecil, went to one from Share International. It was that cult who believed that the second coming of Jesus was a South Asian man living in London that hadn't been discovered yet.
Yeah, I still get their emails. Yeah, for sure.
I still get their emails too. Yeah, but their founder passed. But I was just thinking back on that quite fondly, and I remember when that guy was presenting the structure of the universe, the order of our world, and he was going through the different kingdoms. Like the fungus kingdom and so on, and he kept calling the plant kingdom the vegetable kingdom.
Yeah.
It's just always stuck out to me. Is this guy?
Vegetable kingdom.
It's such a funny thing to refer to the plant kingdom as the vegetable kingdom. It's like, you got the king potato and, But anyways, today we're looking at Zhuan Falun by Li Hongzhi. Zhuan Falun is the central text of Falun Dafa practitioners, sometimes known as the Falun Gong. Falun Dafa is known primarily as a relatively peaceful Chinese spiritualist movement that is banned in China. It's most famous for its repression by the Chinese state, for the Shenyun dance performances, for their own media empire, including Epoch Times, New Tang Dynasty. They've got a bunch, America Uncensored, China Uncensored. They have a whole lot of different outlets. And they're known, I think people are becoming aware more recently of their kind of critical role in what I describe as a sort of group project to make Western democracies kind of completely insane, pushing anti-science propaganda, they're anti-evolution, anti-modern medication, anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigration.
Miscegenation.
You name it, they got their fingerprints all over it. And I think they fit very nicely in the current United States, that's for sure. In the 2020 election also, they spent more than any other group on Facebook ads for Trump. And Facebook actually banned them from purchasing ads due to the way they were trying to obscure it by buying from these different entities. So I think if Zuckerberg doesn't want your money, that's probably saying something. But one of our core principles on this podcast, if we have any.
We do.
I think we do, right?
We do.
Certainly.
So we're principled here. Now, let me be clear. It's to focus on the text and the author, so I'm not trying to shit on people who are roped into a belief system or born into a belief system that might be exploiting them or harming them by, for example, teaching them not to seek medical treatment, or a group that is persecuted otherwise, as they are in China. But that said, we're looking at effectively their Bible with Zhuan Falun and the guy who wrote it. It's a slog to read as a series of lectures that are, I would say, presented in a very conversational, kind of loosely organized style, very repetitive. But it's a lot of the teachings are really pretty batshit crazy. It's almost
not to be judgmental, but yeah.
I can judge the text and the guy who's pushing it. Teachings are batshit crazy. I think it's almost playbook style cult organization embedded in like the logic and the theology or the cosmic order of the universe that he's proposing. In particular, there's some things, for example, for me as someone in a healthy, loving interracial relationship and the father of a mixed race child, I tend to disagree with Lee's idea that every race on Earth was created by a different type of alien. I tend to disagree with his idea that every race goes to a different heaven. And I disagree with his claim that mixed race people are inferior. I feel like I got thick skin, thick white skin, if Master Lee is listening. But When someone says you've doomed your daughter to hell, it feels a little bit rude to me.
You know what's kind of interesting? That I would say like modern religious movements, like 20th century, seem to really focus on aliens, like Scientology and stuff.
Well, this is something I was thinking about with regards to Falun Gong as well. Is like, if you're starting a new movement, you have to rectify your beliefs with existing knowledge and understanding of the universe in some way. And so that's why, like, you might bring in aliens, and then a lot of new religions, they'll also try to incorporate other religions. They try to incorporate what exists in the world as well, or find some way to take it and mold it into their own faith.
I remembered, like, I don't remember if it was Richard Dawkins who coined the term, but they talk about like the God of the gaps in religion, and how religious people will use God, religion, or mysticism to fill in the gaps in their existing knowledge. So, 500 years ago, it was about why are vegetables growing slowly this year? And now it's what's happening on other planets. But I'm pretty sure there's a section in Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World, like Science is a Candle in the Dark, where he discusses this exactly as well. One of the reasons, like, the whole point of the book is pushing for science and scientific understandings of space and space exploration. But one of his points was also this, like, if you don't push science into those areas, then other people are going to step into those areas. And people who maybe have very sort of different aims than you are going to kind of step in.
Well, and I think Li Hongzhi would respond to Carl Sagan by saying that he's promoting alien technology and alien beliefs when he says that sort of thing.
I was going to pick up on another point you made, Chip, is like, you kind of said like this book is like, these texts are really kind of tough to get through. And it's like, isn't that the case kind of for almost all religious stuff? Like, what religious stuff, like core texts? Like, have any of you ever read a core religious text that was actually a nice read?
Tao Te Ching, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a nice, simple, some, a few dozen poems.
Easy one.
Nice and easy.
That's a good point.
I think the Sikhism one is like the main, not like the text that they read over and over again for all time or whatever at the Golden Temple, but the smaller, just kind of like their teachings or whatever of his story is not too bad. But I would say, the only one is Tao Te Ching.
The Little Red Book's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we can do first is I want to try and contextualize the work a little bit before we dive into it fully. And one thing to note also is that the belief system or the teachings from Li Hongzhi change quite dramatically. They evolve over time. But first off, maybe we could talk a little bit about Li himself. So according to his official biography from the Falun Gong, he was born in poverty around 1952 amidst the Great Leap Forward in a small town in Jilin province, I believe. And he was a prodigy at an early age. He studied Buddhist and Taoist teachings, training with various masters from the age of 4. And by the age of 8, he'd already attained numerous supernatural powers, including invisibility, levitation.
That's a good one.
Telepathy.
Yeah, that's
teenager with invisibility. He had a good time.
What could go wrong?
Precognition. Ability to heal others. I mean, when you're a kid and you're like, what superpower would you have? He kind of got all of them, I think.
That sounds okay, but did he ever hit 11 holes in one in a single game of golf like North Korean leader Kim Jong-il? Because
you got some work to do if you're going to go against the supreme leader there.
Yeah, exactly. True. I think golf might be too Western for him. I think, clubs and balls might be alien technology, but I got to hand it to him. That's pretty good at 8, right? And so during the Cultural Revolution, he continued to study under several elite masters in the dark of the night. In the 80s, China started opening up under Deng Xiaoping, internationally and domestically. And so Qigong, which is, it's broadly, it's like nurturing your body's internal energy flows. It has its basis, just in Chinese medicine, Chinese tradition. You might cultivate it through meditation, through exercise like Tai Chi. So in the 80s, they had the Cultural Revolution was behind them, and they're pivoting away from the Maoist perpetual revolution, smash the old communist revolutionary dogma. The state started permitting, and not just permitting, but also promoting Qigong more widely. this served a lot of purposes. It was part of rebuilding some kind of cultural continuity, realigning the CCP as like sort of Chinese nationalists first, communists second. And then also, I think, making sure that if spirituality was spreading, because you can think of the society at that time as, especially following the Cultural Revolution, one where people maybe felt it was kind of spiritually devoid, which is, I think, what even here or anywhere else is like what attracts people to spiritualist movements, living in a fast-paced modern capitalist society, whatever, makes people kind of drawn to these things to find meaning. It made a lot of sense for them to permit this and promote it, because if you're going to get some spirituality flowing through the country, make sure at least it's Chinese spirituality. Qigong, this whole thing had a huge boom in China from the 80s onwards, 80s until the mid-90s. Many, many different masters, many different branches of it. And that's where our friend Li Hongzhi appeared on the scene in the early 90s. How lucky was he, having all these gifts as a young child. And then, lo and behold, 20 years later, turns out it's the biggest grift in the country. He starts to organize the Falun Gong. His first book was published in 1993 called Falun Gong, which details their approach to Qigong, this process of cultivating your Qi. And that one, I think you read that, Bo?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I started trying to read the book we were actually assigned, but I found it too I didn't have any of that context of understanding what is the religion actually asserting. And this introductory book, it's almost like the primer, if I understand correctly. It's really everything laid bare in the book that's called Falun Gong or China Falun Gong. Sometimes it's published as opposed to the Zhuan Falun, which is then the lectures and the more in-depth meat, which then you'll dive into.
Yeah, exactly. Like that first one was it was more conventional, I guess, with among popular Qigong texts at the time. Where it was just, and it's very basically just like a manual of like, here's the things you do to, improve your spirituality and your health and so on. Zhuan Falun is where it pivoted more into becoming like a little bit more like a proper religion. You can throw around cult, you can throw around whatever, but it's where you start to see these organization structures, like a specific hierarchy, both in the theology as well as in how people are meant to organize around promoting it. And so that's kind of where it took that turn.
If we're talking about Li Hongzhi, one of the things that's interesting about this guy and sort of disarming. So if you're like me and you're imagining what a Chinese spiritual leader maybe looks like, you might have this Orientalist fantasy of a guy with a Fu Manchu mustache and like flowing silk robes. What's funny about this guy is Li Hongzhi. First of all, he's doughy. He's not the picture of health that he claims he could be or is. He has a really friendly face, and he's always pictured in sort of what looks like a cheap polyester suit and a tie. And most of the pictures of him are from about 20 years ago because I'm sure you'll get into, he sort of disappeared a little bit. But he looks like he doesn't look like a spiritual leader. He looks like he's middle management at a shoe factory in Guangdong, or he's like local party cadre or something like that. You can imagine from his appearance, him like force feeding you like shots of baijiu and like ciggies if you met him at a banquet or like a Chinese nightclub or something like 100%. That. Like he's just, he looks like sort of every man in China.
Yeah, and I think that's part of his appeal. A lot of the masters and stuff really did play more into, maybe being like kind of mysterious and so on. And outside of his own, the hagiographic story of his upbringing, there's no documentation of what this guy did. Nobody knows really what he was doing until early 90s when he suddenly started pushing Falun Gong. But yeah, he bursts onto the scene. He's wearing a suit. He's 40 years old. He's younger than most of the masters. The way that he promoted was different. Like he went to the cities, he did these conferences, in a very organized sense that a lot of them weren't doing. So he had a lot of success with that.
Where has he actually disappeared to? Is he just out of the limelight? Like I read that there's a huge compound somewhere in like upstate New York or something, which is like the global headquarters. Is he just hiding out there?
He lives in New York. He left prior to the Falun Gong getting banned. Across the 90s, he started doing a ton of international trips, and expanding abroad and going to the US regularly. And he ended up setting up shop there in New York. If you can look up pictures of commune, it's pretty impressive.
I totally thought he was dead.
Is he seen as a financial grifter, though? I don't want to jump ahead in your plan if you're planning to address this, but it's not a movement that calls on its members to tithe. He seems like a guy who's withdrawn publicly. He's removed all of his biographies from Falun Gong texts. You never hear about financial improprieties when it comes to the organization, or at least, so is he, what's his angle?
Well, I know that, for example, like Shen Yun has 300 million in assets or something.
And that's the dance troupe.
But they're not, the dancers basically aren't paid, and it's run directly by him.
There was a New York Times expose about it last year.
Yeah.
So
you have to pay to like attend his seminars and things. It is opaque in terms of what is exactly required of practitioners. Like, officially speaking, they don't have to tithe. But it seems to be there's this understanding that they must volunteer their time in certain ways. And I mean, the guy's got a hell of a 500-acre commune in upstate New York. So he's clearly getting funding from somewhere.
I feel like the Piece of Shit Book Club could learn a thing or two from him. You know how much revenue we're getting from our membership? 0.
It's kind of inspiring for us, though. I think he, coming out of nowhere in your 40s to build an empire, we still got a chance.
Well, I'm starting from nowhere, so.
So Zhuan Falun. Well, I'm going to focus on the text a little bit. Zhuan Falun are his writings from the transcripts of his lectures in the mid-90s, and they form the core of the Falun Gong belief system. It has evolved over time, and we can look at kind of 3 phases of the Falun Gong. The first phase was the straight Qigong practice up until the mid-90s, and that is the era that sort of ended with this text, when it became more focused on cementing top-down leadership. In their teachings, they start to talk more about moral decay of the world, coming catastrophe. They start to present more supernatural powers that Li Hongzhi has. That's when they start to bring in things like more discussion of aliens, interfering with Earth's affairs, demons and animals possessing their enemies, this sort of thing. That lasted kind of until their ban in China and their subsequent persecution. After that, they underwent a kind of further radicalization. They really started to frame that crackdown as a kind of cosmic intervention by literal demons or aliens in the form of the Chinese Communist Party. And since then, their teachings have become kind of more and more conspiratorial. And it's I'll finish with some of this later, but some of their very later readings, it's really, really become full on like millenarian end of days movement. But that's a few years hence from where we are right now. Just to mention a little bit on the banning of the Falun Gong, they were banned in the late 90s in China.
Your buddy Jiang Zemin, right?
Jiang Zemin, yeah. The Frog Prince himself.
He was the last good one.
Yeah. He was kind of beloved. And then the Chinese Gen Z kind of had this meme of worshiping him because there's all these pictures of him, when he's swimming and stuff. He just looks like a little toad in the water. But but basically the Falun Gong were growing, and they started to get some criticism from various places. A Beijing university newspaper criticized them as a cult, and they went and protested at that university. And there was a local security crackdown on them. A bunch of them were beaten in that process. And then a couple days later, they organized a follow-up protest where they went to Zhongnanhai, which is the center of the government in China, and surrounded it with 10,000 Falun Gong members in a peaceful protest. They just kind of stood around and like cleaned up a little bit and meditated and things, but kind of stood there for a day. But it's a very interesting incident because it was basically a total surprise to the Chinese government that these guys were able to organize so efficiently and so quickly without them realizing. They're probably already wary of this group that at this point had tens of millions of members, potentially as many members as the Chinese Communist Party itself. And then I think specifically its ability to just suddenly have 10,000 people show up and surround the government office really freaked them out. So that's when they banned it. They did not ban like the Qigong practice or anything, but they banned numerous other groups that were teaching it, arrested a lot of the leadership, that sort of thing. And so that's when we get into the Falun Gong in exile since about 2000.
Right around there is when he got Nobel Peace Prizes. No, he didn't win them, but he was like nominated or something.
Got a nomination for sure. That ban also sort of, if you think of development of religious movements, it really became it became part of their kind of cosmic journey as like their exile moment. And sort of confirming this belief that there's an ongoing cosmic battle of evil and good in the world that they're on the right side of.
It's sort of reminds me of a lot of the rhetoric you hear for right-wing conspiratorial types, where they talk about, you're over the target when you're getting all the flack. That if you're a loudmouth racist and people criticize you for it, it's because you're speaking the truth and people just can't handle that.
Yeah, and it goes to the same. I mean, I'll get called a Wu-Mao either way. Obviously, I don't believe that people should be persecuted or that you should really ban religions from any given place. But nonetheless, I think that for most Westerners, they don't really know much about it and likely just see it as, these are just some peaceful guys that are persecuted.
I often think about them in the context of the Taiping Rebellion, and that China, PRC may have banned them one way or another because they don't like other centers of power competing with the party. But when you have this traumatic, horrific event in your relatively recent history, and other millenarian movements that have existed throughout Chinese history, similarly, it's gonna raise the hair on the back of your neck when this guy shows up with millions of people and the ability to mobilize them. And he has this kind of charismatic, messianic persona.
And he has superpowers too.
Yeah, he's superpowers, right? So I don't know how much that actually played into their thinking, but it's, I always connect the two in my mind.
I agree. That is like one of the sensitivities on the Chinese state side, and not just Taiping Rebellion, also like the Boxer Rebellion.
Another group of maniacs.
And also Chinese leadership at that point was terrified of the excesses of the Cultural Revolution as well. Like anything that's sort of like disruptive is so they some fear of that sort of thing as well. Don't rock the boat, and also don't. It's like this is cartel territory. Don't sell your stuff here.
Right. We own this street corner, bitch.
Yeah. But preamble, right to the core text at last. To start it, I think Lee has this fantastic preamble to Zhuan Falun, which I'll read. On the surface, Zhuan Falun is not elegant in terms of language. It might not even comply with modern grammar. If I were to use modern grammar to organize this book of Dafa, a serious problem would arise wherein, though the structure of the book's language might be standard and elegant, it would not encompass a more profound and higher content. So
I've got that in my notes as well. That one is like, I don't think any other author or writer that we've covered on this podcast in the book club has said right in their prologue, look, the book's a piece of shit. Okay.
I can't write.
But cut me some slack. Yeah.
I was thinking it's even better than Elizabeth Gilbert's Ghost of Forgiveness at the start of All the Way to the River. It's just like saying at the very beginning of the book, if this thing's a piece of shit, it's just because words aren't good enough.
That's good. That's good.
But this is a persistent device that Lee uses in all of his teachings, where it's kind of like, well, the divine is all around me, but you just can't see it because you're not advanced enough. And so it's consistent with his, rhetorical device he does to explain his lack of explanation for things.
God moves in mysterious ways.
Yeah, exactly.
And who are you to question it?
So in the book, a lot of it is dismissing other Qigong masters. And this is probably the dullest part. They're too focused on Qigong just for healing rather than for spiritual ascension, so on and so forth. And these are very, very detailed discussions of these things. I'll probably skip over it because unless you're deep into Qigong, otherwise, I don't think it's too interesting.
Are any of these are other masters kind of household names the same? Or is he just shitting on all the other small guys? Or is there a big rivalry?
No, he's not
Heated
going after
rivalry.
any big dogs.
Oh, okay.
Rivalry. No. Well, he definitely wouldn't like that. They're not a fan of homosexuality, let me tell you.
He acknowledges that there's a number of other guys who are legitimate masters. And he says, some of them are, you could follow them, but pick a lane. Like, don't go running after every master that's out there. Pick one guy, stick with it. If it's not me, make sure that the guy's legitimate, but don't go running from master to master.
Yeah, and there's one specific thing he says several times is that mixing beliefs will ruin you. So if you're following him and you also start to follow some other stuff, it's going to fuck up all your chi. It's going to fuck up all your karma. You're going to get AIDS.
Spiritual or real?
Real. There's no distinction for Li Hongzhi between the spiritual and the real at a basic level. For him, all physical ailments are a manifestation of lack of spiritual alignment, right? So if you're not aligned properly with the universe, if you have bad karma, that's why you get cancer or something like that, right? So the only way to truly heal these things, rather than putting a Band-Aid on with Western medicine, is to forego Western medicine and simply cultivate, meditate, do his practices.
If it's not working, it's because you're not doing it properly, basically. So you stop taking medicine. If it doesn't heal your sickness, then yeah, that's kind of your own fault for questioning the process.
And also he also says that it may be the natural process. Like perhaps you have a lot of bad karma stacked up from a previous life. So sorry, you just have to suffer through that illness. And if you don't suffer through that illness, you're not going to break the cycle of this bad karma.
Plus, it can be karmic interference if you try to interfere by healing somebody. So if you're a doctor and you're trying to cure cancer, you don't know the karmic relationship, what this event might be connected to. It might be repayment from a debt in previous life. So who are you to cure the cancer within the guy?
And there's also this, he has this concept that, all of us exist in multiple dimensions, replicas of us. And so the physical body here, if you're curing something in it won't necessarily cure it in the other ones. This was a little vague to me, but I think a lot of this is deliberately vague.
But what's the, just to get our terminology straight, there's Qi, there's Gong, and then there's Qigong.
Mm-hmm.
So Qi is like, and I'm going to say this probably like a lay person's way, that's just probably wrong, but Qi is sort of like the universal energy of some kind.
Qi is the energy in the body. Gong is as in like move or work. So Qigong is doing something to activate your Qi.
Right. Because the book talked about constantly about cultivating Gong. And that just means, because a lot of like the first book is talking about, cultivating Gong and your Gong potency. I'm trying to avoid saying dong. It's surprisingly difficult when saying these phrases.
Yeah, I think it's like your power to affect your Qi.
Okay.
My Gong potency is just fine. I don't need to cultivate it.
You're hanging Gong already?
Yeah, exactly.
So some of the things that Li introduces in this book as well, there's a lot that start to structure the movement. So there's rules on spreading the faith. Li charges for his seminars, etc., but no one else along the way is allowed to charge. If you spread any of his teachings and you charge, his invisible army of spirits will come and take your Falun Gong away. So you'll lose all your energy.
Can we adopt that for our podcast? Only we get to charge for Piece of Shit Book Club information, knowledge, and entertainment. And if anyone else tries to monetize this,
it'd be a waste of time for them anyways. They're not making it.
An army of 1 million spirits will haunt them for the rest of their lives.
I want to get to those, the invisible army of spirits, because they're important. In addition, nobody is permitted to teach the practice in the manner that he does, as in no one is allowed to teach it in large-scale lecture formats or anything like that. He's the only one allowed to address crowds. You can introduce people to Falun Gong, person to person, but if you're caught giving a presentation, you're going to hell. At the same time, you cannot call any practitioner who passes it on teacher or master. There's only one master in Dafa, and that is Li Hongzhi. All practitioners are his disciples, no matter how advanced they are, no matter when they began the practice.
That way, it's like Pieces of Book Club, because if you've ever listened to even a second of this podcast, you are a member of the book club. There's no opt-in, there's no opt-out. There only is.
Can I ask, has there ever been any discussions of like a succession planning or something like that? Because like the guy's like in his 70s.
I don't think so, because it's also, they've moved very much into end of world stuff. So they believe the world, the universe will end imminently. And that's where all the teachings pivot around.
Gotcha.
I don't know what they're going to do when he dies and the world doesn't end. They'll figure it out, I guess. So there's a moral order to the physical universe, governed by higher level divine creatures, which in other lectures a couple years later, he'll explicitly refer to them as aliens. But here he just kind of, and then much later he starts to introduce an ultimate creator. And the pitch is kind of that most major religions on Earth thus far have gotten some way to deciphering this. Maybe they've had some sort of connection with them. But Li Hongzhi is the guy who has really figured all of it out. The universe is has a moral order to it. It also follows these cycles of, generation, decline, degeneration rather. And we are at present in an age of degeneration.
Figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. I don't think there's.
Yeah, you can start to see why it appeals to people, right?
Yeah.
And so Earth has existed for a long time, and he believes that humans were created by divine beings placed on Earth and have actually existed on Earth in our form for millions of years. They did not evolve from anything.
Right.
Evolution is a sham. He borrows from Taoist and Buddhist notions of like cyclical periods of growth, decline, and cataclysm here to say that Earth has successively gone through these periods of development and then collapse, development and collapse. He says at one point, physicists say that the motion of matter has patterns. Our entire universe's changes also have patterns. The movement of our planet, when it's in this vast universe, and when it's in this turning Milky Way, there's just no way it could have always been smooth sailing. And chances are it's run into other planets or had some other problems, and these would have brought about some catastrophes. And then he says, one time I traced it back carefully and found that there have been 81 times when mankind lay in ruin, and only few people survived, and only a little left of the prehistoric civilization survived. Then they enter the next period and lived primitively.
He gives this interesting example as to why that's true. So he asserts that there's a uranium mine in the Gabon Republic that was actually, it wasn't a mine, it was a large-scale nuclear reactor that was built 2 billion years ago and operated for 500,000 years. And it's irrefutable evidence of the advancement and decline and this sort of building and decay of human civilizations, these cycles of annihilation that you mentioned.
When you look into that, it's a natural reactor that I didn't know could occur. So you have the uranium underground, and then it has groundwater flowing through it that could basically acted sort of like a really low-grade nuclear reactor.
He makes
for a long time, and then
so many bullshit claims so quickly.
The uranium out of it, they found that it had been slightly
and they're never repeated again.
or
To sort of keep track of
whatever.
all of
it was a bit of a mystery, but it's actually just like a cool
that comes out of that guy's
piece
mouth.
of geology.
It's a Herculean task. I'm impressed you actually fact checked it, because he makes so many bullshit claims so quickly. They come and go, and they're never repeated again. That to sort of keep track of all of the litany of nonsense that comes out of that guy's mouth. It's a Herculean task.
Yeah, that's why I'm having a bit of trouble jumping around within my notes here. But yeah, that kind of thing. He makes a bunch of claims like that, right? He also claims in a separate lecture, not in this book, but just after. And this is important, that the biblical flood was real. All of Earth was flooded at that time. In China, because of the high mountains, a lot of people were able to protect themselves and survive it. But Western civilization, including the destruction of Atlantis, he says, was all destroyed. And so what that meant is that the Western civilization, only a couple of people survived. They lost everything. So they had to start over. And that's why the West started these sort of deviant belief systems and a progress, this technological progress that is separate from the correct teachings, like what the Qigong are and things. He says that those were preserved in China, and the Qigong is something that has persisted through all these millions of years of cataclysms and things. It's like the original teaching of the order of the universe that's been passed on, but the Caucasians were cut off from it. And well, it's important because there is a little bit of a, you could call it like a Chinese revivalist nationalist thing, but there is a xenophobic component, I think, to Li's teachings in the beginning, because all of these things like Western medicine, part of the reason they don't like communism is because it's a Western interference in China, a Western belief system, right? Western technology, it's all alien. Well, he's talking about supposedly real aliens. There is this perhaps these undertones of xenophobia, I think, there.
Glad you mentioned the bit about Atlantis, because I was trying to think of a way to kind of shoehorn that into conversation.
You just really liked it.
Well, just suddenly mentioned, I think it's in the first lecture, which is one of the only ones I read in full honesty before I gave up. But he just kind of mentions, yeah, and obviously we all know about Atlantis, and there's Atlantis under the sea. But he also he drops in all sorts of random shit like that. Like at one point he's going on about the Bermuda Triangle as like more evidence. He's like, and of course there's the Bermuda Triangle where all the planes and boats are going missing. And part of it seemed ridiculous, but I also just felt nostalgic. I'm like, oh, hey, that's nice. Someone's talking about the Bermuda Triangle. No one's talked about that since like the fucking 80s.
Yeah, since I was a kid. What happened to that?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a big deal when I grew up. Like, I thought it was all going to be Bermuda Triangles and Sasquatches.
Yeah, it's all I worried about at night.
Did he write the English one as well that's been publicized? Or is there any translator that's been accredited?
It's been translated. Yeah, there are several editions of it, but I'm using the one from their site.
There is an official translation into an English one. Okay.
Yeah, it's official.
Sanctioned.
I'm just trying to cover all like the main stuff. Li can install the Falun in your stomach. This is like what he really brings to the table. He's able to install the Falun, which means like Fa as in law, and then Lun as in like a wheel. It's a law wheel that goes in your stomach, and is a rotating sort of microcosm of the universe that allows you to tap in to the moral cosmic order better than anybody else. And when you meditate, when you do the exercises, you're just leveling up so much quicker than anybody else can. It's the only way that you hit this higher level of cultivation that he talks about, that the other masters don't provide access to. Li is the only person that can install it in people, and he can remove it from people at any time, even remotely. So if you cross him, he can just
look out,
take it away.
Wow.
Get him.
Guy. Snap. There goes your imaginary stomach law wheel. You look like a bit of an asshole now, Cecil.
Yeah.
And he's talking about a literal wheel. This isn't some sort of like metaphysical concept that he's implanting inside of your body spiritually. He's talking about like an actual spinning wheel that contains every grain of sand in the universe inside of your lower abdomen.
He means very literally when he's like installing things into people, or how the practice, actually regenerates your cells and has a physical change to your organs as you meditate.
I was going to say that in the first book, which is the one I read, this is the quote that I copied into my notes about the law wheel. Once developed, a person's law wheel exists as a living, intelligent entity. It automatically spins ceaselessly. It goes 9 times clockwise, 9 times counterclockwise. And this is a segue to a really important question I wanted to ask. But the goal is stated very explicitly is to attain the, quote, milk white body, end quote, which is something that maybe that's on your
I've
notes.
already reached that.
Yeah, maybe it's
have ascended.
True retention.
That's gong potency. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's on your notes to kind of talk about and contextualize, but what the fuck is that about?
Milk white body. So he talks about karma as black and milk as good, the milk white. So there's these two forces. Is it the duh and I think the duh is the good, right? The white one. Negative karma, for example, is like a blackness that lives in your body. And it can manifest in, bad luck or illness or whatever. And then the white is this material that can fight against it or override it. So the milk white body is one that is like totally purified of negative karma.
It is duh. It's this virtuous white substance.
Yeah, it's duh. Yeah.
Like no one's gonna make a joke about virtuous white substances. Come on. Yeah.
I'm really starting to feel like this is like a real grab bag of things. Like you got this like wheel, like which sounds like Buddhism. You've got this alien stuff thrown in. You've got these like Western Atlantis and stuff. Like he's just really going for whatever people kind of know about already, and just kind of making it more physical instead of just being a concept.
Yeah. And as time goes on a little later, like he doesn't explicitly claim to be an alien himself, but he'll often say things like, "Yeah, you can view me as a human if you want." And he does say all the time that the highest masters are aliens or interdimensional beings, and so given that he's the highest master of them all, we can presume he believes himself to be an alien. Law bodies are something I want to talk about. The Fa Shen. So the Fa Shen. And a lot of these terms in the translation are just like literal translations, so they sound kind of odd in English. Fa is the law, like the cosmic law of the universe. So the law bodies are physical manifestations of that. I'll give you his description here. A Fa Shen is born in one's Dantian area and is made up of Fa and Gong. It manifests in other dimensions. Fa Shen has much of a person's power, but its mind and thoughts are controlled by that person. Yet, Fa Shen itself is a complete, independent, and realistic individual life. Therefore, it can do anything independently on its own. What Fa Shen does is exactly as what the person's main consciousness wants it to do. Yada, yada, yada. Its body is not a fixed one. I just thought this was a funny detail. Its body is not a fixed one that cannot change. Instead, it can become large or small. Sometimes it becomes very large, so large that one cannot see its entire head. Sometimes it becomes very tiny. So the Fa Shen is, if you're a master, you can basically create this spirit, this invisible spirit, to do your bidding. And this is really important because Master Li, surprise, surprise, has created a whole lot of these things. He says, my Fa Shen in another dimension knows everything in your mind. What I want to do can be done by all my Fa Shen, such as adjusting the bodies of true practitioners. My Fa Shen are countless and take care of the practitioners. So part of his pitch is that he has this huge invisible KGB that follow all of his disciples around, influence their lives. When we're talking about taking the Falun out of someone, his Fa Shen can do that remotely. He can see everything that everyone's doing at all times. He can read their minds. So it's maybe that's why the CCP doesn't like him. They're just jealous of the surveillance state he's able to set up,
He's mastered their vision.
Yeah, they're like, God. But yeah, so Li has an army of autonomous spiritual agents under his control. They can travel anywhere instantaneously. They can be in multiple places at once. They're here right now listening to us as we record this podcast. There's probably one of them in the room with each of you. So hope you made extra tea. So if you're a true cultivator, it will protect you, like as in they can affect what's happening around them as well. Might be able to protect you from like a car crash, might be able to help protect you from illness and so on, but also they're there to ensure that you don't do anything wrong. So this thing is where it's like part of really establishing the control in the system, the very heavy top-down control. One thing he introduced that I liked that's novel to me is the assistant consciousness. Did you get into this one at all, Cecil?
I've been sitting here, hadn't been called out for 2 hours. I just wrote in the chat that I'm getting up to pee, and then I'm called on by teacher. I didn't.
Use piss bottles at your desk like the rest of us, man. Come on.
Jugs. It's the way of the road, boys.
They're all full up.
Exactly.
So there's something he introduces called the assistant consciousness. You have your main consciousness, which is what you're trying to cultivate, right? It's because it's like you're going to keep getting reincarnated in this world unless you hit the level of enlightenment that he can take you to, and then you go to like the super heaven. You have your main consciousness, but you also have this assistant consciousness that sort of helps with your day-to-day tasks. Everybody has this. And he makes this point that a lot of different religions and Qigong practices accidentally give all the good energy to the assistant consciousness, which can steal it and run away with all your good karma you've built up. And then you just get, I know, and then it's not going to your main consciousness. So you just end up reincarnated just right where you were. All that good work went to waste.
That explains this. Explains my life.
It's like having like a lawyer or it's like a manager if you're an athlete or something. It's just this parasitic force. As I mentioned before, he believes that all races on Earth were created by different aliens, and each race more or less goes to its own heaven. So noting here, and that mixing races is bad because each of these different aliens made the races in their own likeness. And then if you show up, and so I got to go to the whatever alien's my likeness when I die, I got to go to that one. But if you're mixed race, nobody's going to know where you belong. So I think mixed race people basically go to purgatory. It reminds me a little bit of a book that someone posted in the subreddit that was called like Gods and Spacemen of the Ancient East.
Yeah, we spoke about that.
I think we mentioned that last episode.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's what Lee is proposing is kind of similar to there, that different aliens created Chinese people and things like that. Modern technology is the work of malevolent aliens who are seeking to invade Earth and steal our bodies, especially once cloning is enabled. He basically has this belief that at the end of the day, the human body is like the best vessel to achieve enlightenment. And there's always different aliens and creatures that live throughout the universe, but they really want the human body. Modern technology has been introduced to the Earth as a means of them getting access to our bodies. So he talks at times about computers having things built into them to sap away at your life force or slowly replace your life force. He believes in possession as well, and that, certain people are literally possessed by aliens or possessed by animals. For example, CCP, they pretty much believe are just possessed by demons, and people pushing Western technology may also be possessed by those aliens who want to develop some kind of technology to take over the human body. Alcohol and homosexuality, they wipe out all your good You get the cream just drips out of you as soon as you drink.
Doesn't rise to the top, it drips out.
No, it just pours right out of you the second you have a drink.
Wait, so man-on-man love causes all the white goodness to pour right out? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, exactly. But okay, you say you don't like them so much. Let's talk about some of the pros of cultivation, because there's a lot of pros here. Number one, you will regain your youth. You'll look incredibly young if you start cultivating.
I've got my shirt off right now. You guys, we're all sitting across from each other. You can see I haven't been cultivating.
No, you're not cultivating.
I'm not cultivating anything but mass in the gym all day. I look youthful. My physique is great.
Yeah,
I agree.
You full of cream. Man. You look great.
Full of white goodness. There's no point. I just wanted to
milk white body.
You guys want to take off?
Go.
You guys want to take off your shirts as well? Have like a shirts off pot.
It's winter here.
You know what? Yeah,
it's quite cold in my room, so no.
for Women's Day, even for the ladies out there, the lady listeners of the podcast, take off your shirt.
For the fellas too.
For the listeners, note to the listener, he's just doing a little dance while he's saying all this for some reason, swinging his arms around.
I think he's trying to flex.
Was that flexing?
Yeah, he's flexing.
You're just dancing a jig. Okay,
but why? Why are you flexing like that's like an olden days kind of flex? Like, why aren't you just kind of going for a classic like?
Oh, there you go.
Anyway,
this is bad podcast.
We're getting off topic.
Can see this. Yeah.
I think it's a welcome break. This is pretty heavy stuff. So you regain your youth. You don't want to go to the gym though. He is anti-exercise. It's kind of interesting. People talk about this idea that like Trump believes
it's like Trump,
you have a
actually, his
battery
ideas
or something.
That.
Yeah, but he believes that specifically, that you have a certain amount of energy that you expend, and like if you're an athlete, you're burning it all out too quickly. I don't know. Maybe that's why they ended up loving Trump so much.
It's the idea of like finite cell division. So like you can cells they can only divide a certain number of times, and athletes are aging prematurely because they use up these divisions through high metabolism to maintain their peak performance.
Yeah, and I think if you start practicing Falun Gong, it's just your cells stop dividing, I think. The cells themselves are affected, and like your organs become like unbelievably great organs. Like they're just the best organs on earth.
You mentioned Trump, and I'll just say that we should mention that the Epoch Times or whatever they were, they promoted during the campaign. They ran ads for him without like
they love him
without being just promoting all of his stuff.
They love Trump. Yeah.
On that note, were you all aware that the Epoch Times has a film division and they've released one film so far?
No, that is
film. It's really odd. It makes no fucking sense to me. But the film is called The Firing Squad and stars the noted actor, star of Snow Dogs and Oscar winner Cuba Gooding Jr. And star of Hercules: The Legendary Journey, Kevin Sorbo, an infamous asshole, Kevin Sorbo. And the movie is
Cuba
about...
Gooding Jr. also an asshole? I mean, he did rape people.
I actually didn't know that. Well, then, yeah. Then I guess, yeah, thumbs down. The plot of the movie is about this group of Australians called the Bali Nine who were caught in Indonesia smuggling like 10 kilos of heroin like 20 years ago, and then they were all executed. And the plot of the movie is how they discover Christianity in their like dying moments in the prison. So it's this really weird, it makes no sense to me because it's not like they discover Falun Dafa in the dying
I was
minutes.
about to say, why would they produce this film?
That's partially because all of this stuff we're covering, the belief system has like changed dramatically over the years. And Falun Gong today has a lot of Christian links. But so I imagine that's why they're kind of into that. But some other things, if you cultivate, your metabolism will eventually stop and you won't need to eat. Pretty good. You get to go to the best heaven. That's nice.
Whoa,
Chinese
wait
people
a minute.
have it.
Different races go to different heavens. So which one's the best, Chip?
I'm assuming it's the Chinese heaven.
Yeah, I suppose.
You will develop multiple eyes on your face like a fly to see different dimensions.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good. No one else will be able to see those eyes, but you'll get them. You'll develop a celestial eye in the pineal gland. A person with even a low-level celestial eye will be able to have penetrative vision to see through a wall, see through ladies' clothes, body.
X-ray specs.
Yeah, you get X-ray specs. When your celestial eye reaches the level of Fa eyesight, rocks, walls, or anything can talk to you and greet you. Mm-hmm. Hope you're a social butterfly. However, even if you get that power, Lee will probably keep it locked for you because if you used these powers, society would collapse. And this is a thing that he does a lot about all these superpowers he promises, the ability to fly and so on. He'll constantly say, you will attain this power, but it may be locked because if you did it, society would collapse. People wouldn't be able to handle it. Or if you're at such a high level that you can do it, you would also be so humble at that point that you would never show it off.
It's not about subscribing to a higher tier and paying more.
But you know what's funny is that there's an interview he did with the Times.
The Epoch Times or the New York Times?
Failing New York Times.
It's an interview with Time magazine on this. And
I think they did fail.
And they said, in your book, you talk about people levitating off the ground, but you say they should not show other people. Why is that? Lee says, it is the same principle that Western gods in paradise should not be seen by ordinary mortals because they cannot understand its meaning. Time says, have you seen human beings levitate off the ground? Lee says, I have known too many. Time asks, can you describe any that you've known? And Lee responds, David Copperfield. He can levitate, and he did it during performances. That's his one example.
The famed illusionist.
It's like arguing with a third grader. He's like, no, I got magic powers. I could levitate. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, but I don't want to. Okay.
There's a great back and forth when he's talking about with them in that same interview about the aliens. They ask, what do the aliens look like? Lee says, some look similar to human beings. U.S. technology has already detected some aliens. The difference between aliens can be quite enormous. Time asks, can you describe it? And Lee says, you don't want to have that kind of thought in your mind. Time says, describe them anyway. So Lee responds, well, one type looks like a human, but he has a nose that is made of bone. Other ones look like ghosts, and that's it.
Yeah.
Pretty dull. So
I can't. Yeah. How did this guy? I don't see the hook. Like, the book is a loose collection of just sort of bullshit claims and facts. The guy himself he's not particularly handsome or charismatic or cool or sexy. He doesn't interview well. I mean, what he has a huge Johnson. Like, what's the cachet?
Yeah. I think it's just that it was this era of Qigong being so popular in China. And he kind of, it seems to me that he kind of came in and was the most like organized about doing his presentations, getting people to organize with him, that he got this little bit of a lead. And then when the crackdown happened, that gave them this whole martyrdom thing. They had a little sympathy abroad. They're able to add a bunch more to their history and so on. So that's kind of what it is to me, I think. But yeah, like, he doesn't seem particularly charismatic. Yeah, just, I don't know, right place, right time.
Right.
So some downsides of cultivation. Demons. So demons.
Fucking demons.
We're going back to TB Joshua here. Demons may want to interfere with your meditation. So they might appear in front of you. They might attack you. Demons might infect people around you to try and prevent you from meditating. So if you're meditating too much and it's bothering your wife, you're too dedicated to this process and she needs you to spend more time with her, that might be a demon possessing her.
Are you going to do your Jeff Foxworthy bit there, Bo? If you're meditating too much and your wife's annoyed, it might be a demon.
Yeah. Of course, demons appear and try to have sex with you in your dreams too. It's a common one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Straight out of TB Joshua, isn't it?
Yeah. Demonic seduction.
Please, tuberculosis Jonathan.
Tuberculosis Jonathan.
If you remember something, please.
Animals will try to possess you. This can happen to anyone, by the way. Anybody can be possessed by an animal. A dog might take over your brain. But this can happen to anyone, but you're exposed to it when you're practicing, because you're starting to, you're elevating yourself, but you're also opening yourself to all these cosmic forces. So you have to be cautious of perhaps a stray dog taking over your brain.
I worry about that all the time.
Well, we got friends, like a mutual friend of ours, when you see that guy dancing with a stray dog on the beach.
Mind meld.
Exactly. After you start practicing, you might have bad things happen to you, including sickness or just bad luck in life. But everything bad that's happening to you is just because of the process of exercising your bad karma. It may manifest as it gets pushed out of your body. So don't worry, it's just part of the process. If you find yourself in financial ruin, if you lose friends while you're joining Falun Gong, or if you get sick, you just got to hang out and stick through it.
Initiated tretinoin treatment a couple of years ago as part of my skincare routine. It's like an anti-aging thing, and it has a side effect for a lot of people when they initiate treatment of this topical cream on their face of purging. And so it's often used as an acne treatment, but can also cause your entire skin to break out. And so it's kind of like that. It's like, well, this is going to help you, but in the process, you might end up with like a total pizza face. It's just part of the process.
Trust the process.
Well, I mean, look at the end results. I got the face of a 32-year-old. I'm cultivating duh.
One thing is your spouse, another downside, he says your spouse might get angry with you about what you're doing. And he doesn't fully recommend to divorce your spouse, but you're going to have to ignore them.
Done.
Yeah. And so that's most of what I take from this book, from Zhuan Falun, the central text.
I'm impressed by how comprehensively you went into this.
Yeah, and I'll just, as a final note, like there's other stuff we can discuss about them, but why is this the central text I was thinking about? And I think because there's a lot of writings, a lot of teachings. I think it's because this is the one that establishes the rules and the hierarchy of the religion very clearly, but it's ambiguous enough on a lot of things that are introduced in later lectures that maybe might push people away. But like the main things it establishes is that Li has the power, has superpowers. Li has an invisible army that can watch over all of his practitioners at all times and influence their bodies physically, and so on and so forth. So I think that's why it's the central text.
What would be your rating?
How many logs?
How many logs? But also, I would say I would want 2 ratings. One for just like a piece, a piece of literature or text, and then one is like a religious, like, how urged were you to join this movement? And
I was not too urged, I have to say. As I said, I have personal reasons. He sort of thinks I live a life of sin. So
Wants to go to Chinese heaven.
yeah, I want to visit Chongqing again. But yeah, and also, as you know, as a Wu Mao CCP shill, I legally cannot say anything nice about the Falun Gong as well. So he did these lecture series right around this era, Q&A and things like that. A student asks, I have no problem with reading the books and doing the exercises on my own, but when I go to the practice site, I feel as though we're doing politically driven indoctrination. Li Hongzhi responds, perhaps you loathe politically driven indoctrination, and so that's caused by your strong sense of aversion? The form is unimportant. What's important is the essence. Isn't that a strong attachment you have? An attachment of aversion? What, you got a problem with indoctrination?
What's your aversion to that?
Yeah, it sounds like a you problem, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting, as a very politically charged organization, they're in a perpetual like propaganda war against the CCP. I would suggest that maybe people don't trust either side on certain things that they say.
Yeah.
What's kind of interesting, I don't know if you wanted to do a little bit of the Shen Yun stuff. Shen Yun is one of their big money makers. This
Right.
big dance troupe traveling all around the world that are basically unpaid, mostly volunteer, like youths, dancers. I think they're under investigation currently in New York for a variety of reasons, for abuse and things. I ran into them once in the mall and I didn't know what it was. I remember here, I'd been to China before and I was like, oh, what's this? It's like a Chinese dance thing. I was like, this is cool. Like, are you guys here from Beijing or something? And they were like, no, dancing is forbidden in China. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, it's not. I've seen a bunch of shows like this in China. What the hell are you talking about? But it's apparently quite a fun show because there's a big dance, Chinese dancing, and then a big image will display that says like evolution is a lie in the background, that kind of thing. So I think it's quite a batshit performance. If anyone wants to, maybe do some mushrooms and watch it, might be fun. But
I've been thinking about going for a long time.
Yeah, I've also considered going, but I never have. But it does remind me of the ship in what was that traveling circus act that was also anti-oil and I think it kind of has that vibe to me where it's like this is entertaining, but then they're just trying to like really just shove down your throat their political messaging as you go through it. But
yeah, the evil robots singing about oil, oil. While they're on their ship. Yeah, that was awful.
And we were on mushrooms.
But the trapeze,
and it was still awful.
The trapeze artists were great. It was fun.
That's the angriest I've ever seen you be, Jane. That's the angriest I've ever seen. I remember that lady who was sitting next to us watching and just screamed, "This is bullshit!" in the middle of the show.
We were drinking 40s of malt liquor for some reason, sitting on the dock watching this pirate ship show. And you got so angry that you tossed and it's totally out of character, you tossed your empty bottle of malt liquor into the ocean.
I literally
to protest the pro-environmentalist message that the guys on the ship show were giving you.
Even though I am an environmentalist.
And I was so upset about that because I bought that malt liquor for Jane, that Jane signed a note that I still have on my phone that you probably can't see in the text. I'm going to send a screenshot that says Jane owes $10 for malt liquor.
Yeah, and that you refuse to collect on.
And I still refuse to collect on it, yeah. Getting back to Falun.
But one funny thing I found about them was that in Ottawa, they're not invited back to Ottawa, one of the performing arts.
Big loss. That place sucks.
I'm not sure which. And The reason is there was someone with mental disability in the crowd making too much noise, and so the Shen Yun organizers kicked the guy out, and so they're not welcome back because of that. But then in all their promotion, they're saying that it's because the Chinese state has somehow infiltrated this theater that they were trying to perform in, and then but they do admit to kicking out this poor kid that had some kind of developmental disability for making noise. But they said the only reason they're doing that is because they're on high alert for CCP agitators.
I wonder if that's what happened at the BAFTAs when that guy was screaming the
My
N-word.
God,
Maybe that guy was a Chinese agent too.
Oh, yeah, the Chinese put him up to it. Yeah, that's pretty much all else I had. There's a few more things here and there I found were funny, but I think we've probably got most of the meat off that bone.
Chair recognizes Bo Dashington. Dr. Dashington, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Cecil. Yeah, so I'd
Cecil.
like to introduce a new Cecil. Sorry, I'd like to introduce a new bit to the show. It's a very simple bit to wrap up each book after we've heard our thoughts from it. The name of the bit is it worse than Hitler? And what we're going to do is we're going to use as a benchmark Mein Kampf, and it's ranking on Goodreads. Mein Kampf is 3.18 out of 5 on Goodreads.
That's a pretty good score.
It's surprisingly high. I ask you fellas if you think this week's book is ranked higher or lower on Goodreads than Mein Kampf. Just to warm us up, let's start with a few things we've done in the past. Let's say Wave the Shadow Wolves by Steven Seagal. Do you think that's better or worse than Hitler?
Is this an anti-Semitic trap that you're setting for us?
It is not.
I think that Steven Seagal book is rated worse on Goodreads than 3 point what?
3.18 for Mein Kampf.
3.18. Yeah, I think the Wolves one is rated worse. That's my guess.
Oh, I misunderstood. So we're deciding whether or not those books are rated better or worse on Goodreads, not whether we think they're better or worse than the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll play this game.
So Jane is right. Wave the Shadow Wolves comes in at 2.34. Wave the Shadow Wolves is confirmed worse than Hitler. Let's do one more. Unfettered by John Fetterman. Better or worse than Hitler?
Worse.
I think it's rated higher.
Oof, deciding vote. Jane Lynch is correct again. Unfettered is 4.09. Astoundingly.
Yeah, I had a sense on that one.
He has a lot of people on the political right who are now in his corner who are probably bumping up the score.
Prop him up.
Hitler has fewer supporters on Goodreads.
Hitler has fewer supporters in the political right? Are you sure about that? Okay, nowadays?
I take back my statement.
Summer Skate by Sean Avery and someone whose name I forgot.
Lower.
Better or worse
than
Hitler?
It would be higher. I don't think it got successfully bombed.
I'm going to go lower.
This guy's 3 for 3. Summer Skate is worse than Hitler. Summer Skate comes in at 2.65. So lastly, and of course in the future, we'll just do it for the book of the week. Let's see if Jane Lynch can maintain a perfect record. Is the Zhuan Falun better or worse than Hitler?
That's a toss-up.
I'm going to go higher.
Better. I guarantee it's... A lot of people volunteered to give it 5-star reviews.
That's my thinking as well.
What can I say? This guy knows his Hitler and how other books compare or don't to Hitler. He's correct again. Zhuan Falun comes in at 4.35. Confirmed better than Hitler.
I love this game. Can we do just one more before we wrap up? Can we go...
I can give you one. I've got more.
I want to look at why women deserve even less. The book that we discussed at the beginning from the podcaster Myron Gaines.
I know the answer.
Before I answer that one, can I ask how many reviews that one has?
It has one.
It has one review?
I looked it up.
So Myron rated his own book.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go with higher.
5 stars.
Is it? It's 5 stars?
Yeah, because he rated his own book, and he's the only person who reviewed it.
It's 5 stars across the board. Wow, it's wild. It might be a book to look at. I don't know. We may have been too quick to judge. Okay, well, anything else that we wanted to add before we bid adieu to our lovely book club members?
I was looking at Li Hongzhi's New Year's message from 2023. And he's talking about the divine creator, like a single creator that created Earth. It's very, very like It sounds much more just kind of straight Christian millenarian movement. And the new thing that they're talking about now is not just that the world is in a sort of state of decline, but that there's a coming cataclysm very soon that will wipe out all existence in the universe, and only their followers will be saved. So I just wanted to end on a happy note.
That's a rapture.
Yeah, it's like proper rapture stuff now.
Well, Chip, thank you for giving us something to believe in and look forward to. And sincerely, thank you for the amount of work and effort that you put into this episode today, today's book club. Really, it was a fascinating tour through a fella and a movement that I really didn't know a whole lot about going into this. I, like Dr. Dashton, had tried to read the book. I made it to lecture number 3 and then gave up. It was just, it was too ponderous for me. So hats off to you. Apparently you read it twice to prepare for this episode. So a real glutton for punishment. And you set the bar real high. It's, this Dr. Dashington, Jane Lynch, next time you guys do a book, just keep in mind what the standard is. To the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in, for sticking it out to the end of this podcast. It was, as I said, a real doozy. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Like, comment, subscribe, send us hate mail. We don't have any Apple comments or reviews yet, so give us a hand on Apple Podcasts. Shoot us a 2 or 3 star rating, whatever you think we deserve, whatever. Visit our Piece of Shit Book Club on Reddit, www.posbookclub.com, at POS Book Club on YouTube. To all Piece of Shit Book Club members, again, thanks so much for attending today's meeting. We look forward to welcoming you back next time. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.